Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel TechDataEngineer. So in this video, I'll explain what is Google Dataproc with pictorial representations and with some real-time, you can say scenario. Okay, so I'll explain what is Dataproc, why Dataproc required. Okay, and what was the issue with the existing systems, and some question related to cluster or how to do the cost cutting in case of GCP if you're using the Dataproc. Okay, so please stay with me till end of this video. I'll explain Dataprocs in very detail. So if you're a GCP data engineer, obviously you have come across Dataproc in your day-to-day activity, right? For running a Spark job. So there are lot many questions and lot many productions issue happened with this Dataproc. So I'll explain with some use cases also. Okay. So, going forward with so moving forward with this simple definition. So, what is Google Dataproc basically? So, Dataproc is nothing but it's like a fully managed service to run Apache Spark, Hadoop, Hive, and other data tool on Google Cloud. Okay. So, Dataproc we have in GCP. Okay. So, we have other services similar to we have EMR that is on EWS. Okay, that is EMR on EWS, AWS. Okay, similar we have GCP in GCP Dataproc in GCP. Okay, so what is GCP basically? So GCP is nothing but it's like a fully managed service. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to scale up, scale down. Okay, that is fully managed to run Apache Spark. You can run Apache Spark, you can run Hadoop, Hive, and other big data tools on the Google Cloud. Okay, this is the simple definition. So it means that in simple word I can say data proc is managed 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 Spark, yeah, Hadoop cluster on managed Spark or Hadoop cluster on GCP. Okay, it is managed Spark or Hadoop cluster on GCP. Okay, so you can run your job like Spark, Hadoop, Hive, Yarn. Okay, a Yarn. Then we have HDFS. HDFS. Okay, so these all concept we will see. Okay, you can run your Spark job, Hadoop job, Hive related job. Okay, you can run that. So first questions, this is come like first questions we have, like why Dataproc came. Okay, so why Dataproc exists? So why Dataproc? Okay, so this is for the persons who don't have the knowledge of Dataproc, like why Dataproc came and also I'll explain this. So because we have a Spark job, right? So we have our a Spark job. Okay, we have our Spark job .py file. Okay, so for running this Spark job, we need the cluster or need the virtual machines. Okay, so problem before Dataproc was that to run the Spark or Hadoop, you had to what were the step first? We need to create virtual machine, then we need to install Java. This is scenario I'm telling before the Dataproc. Okay, so first we need to create virtual machine, then we need to install Java, then we need to install Spark or Hadoop. Okay, install Spark or Hadoop. Then fourth things we have to do, like we need to configure yarn or uh, any HDFS, that is for a storage. Then we have handle. We need to see the handle failures also, and we need to scale manually. Okay, so scale up or scale down. We need to do. Okay. So before Dataproc, we have this issue. We need to create the virtual machine. We need to choose the proper cluster. We need to create the clusters like virtual machines, install Java, install Spark, configure Yarn, and then we need to see the if there is a failure, we need to handle the failure also or scale up manually. So this is painful and slow. Okay, so before Dataproc, we need to do all this step to run our Spark or Hadoop job. Okay, so we have this Spark job or Hadoop job. So for running this, we need to do all these steps, right? To solve this problem, Dataproc comes into picture. Okay, so when Dataproc came, so what Dataproc solve? We need to see that. So after Dataproc, so what Dataproc solve? So first, first we need to do first what it does. It's create Spark or Hadoop job in minute. Okay, it did this thing. Then auto configure everything. Auto configure everything. So if you open your GCP console and if you see the data proc thing, you need to just configure each and everything. Then third was that integrate with GCS or integrate with integrate with GCS. GCS for storage. We have BigQuery for analytics and IAM for access control. Okay. Then what it is easy scale up and down. So if we don't have if we don't have job to run, it is a scale down, scale up, and scale down. Okay. Then pay only whenever while cluster runs. Okay. So pay only while cluster runs. Okay. So after Dataproc solves all these points. Okay. So we understand why Dataproc came, and then we understand what was the benefits after Dataproc. Okay. Now we will see Dataproc architecture. Okay. We will see Dataproc architecture. Okay. Dataproc architecture we will understand. So first things we need to understand few core concepts, a few core component we need to understand. First is the cluster. What is cluster? Cluster. What is cluster? Okay. You STER. So, what is cluster? So, a data pro cluster is a group of virtual machine. So, this is one virtual machine. This is this the other virtual machine V1, V2, V3. We have V4. Okay. So, this all creates a cluster. Okay, this all virtual machine is a cluster. So group of virtual machine is a cluster. Okay, and what is virtual machine? Virtual machine is nothing but it's like a we have a storage and processing unit. Okay, that is called virtual. So it's like a system. Understand? Like it's like a single standalone system. Okay, so data proc cluster is a group of virtual machine. Okay, so we have a type of cluster we need to we will understand. Okay, so we have master, worker, and all. Okay, so I'll explain what is master node. Then first, what is master node? First is master node. So so master node is a system, or you can say virtual machines system where our okay, resource manager, resource manager runs. Okay, and then it's like a SDFS name node, and where first thing where resource manager runs, then SDFS name node, and then third one Spark driver. Okay, so whenever you are submitting your job, this driver runs. usually here only. Okay. So resource manager, SDFS, and Spark driver. Okay. So master node is nothing but it's like a brain of the cluster. Master node. So cluster is nothing but we have the worker node and we have the so one of the system work as a worker node, one of system work as a multiple work as a worker node, and one is work as a driver node. Okay. So master node is nothing but it's like a brain of cluster. Okay. It's like a brain of cluster. This is called brain of cluster, the master node, where our resource managers, our Spark driver, SDF name node, this all usually runs. Okay. What is worker node then? So what is worker node? So worker node is where our actual processing happens. So where this is the Spark executor, yarn node manager. Then we have yarn node manager. Okay. And then we have so where actually uh, actual data processing happen. Okay, actual data processing where happen, it's happen in the worker node. Actual data processing happen in the worker node. Okay, so we understand what is worker node, what is master node. Okay, and what is called, then there is a secondary thing that is called secondary worker. So secondary worker is like a preemptible VM. Okay, secondary worker workers, that is called preemptible VM. Preempti, preempti, preemptible virtual machine. So this is beneficial. This is cheaper to use. In case of cheaper to use, then we have, so it can be killed anytime. Okay, can be killed anytime. So these are the benefit of using the preemptible VM. So why we'll use preemptible VM, I'll explain later. Okay. So for now, we understand there is a worker node, secondary worker node, and what is called master node. So if we'll understand the architectures like this, there is a one VM. So this VM, there is a one VM. This is called master node, and there are multiple worker node also. Okay. So these are there are multiple worker node also. So so here driver works basically. Here driver works, driver. Then we have resource manager, and then we have like a these are the all worker nodes where actual processing happens. Okay, so this is also worker node, or it's called, this is worker node, this is worker node. Okay, now we need to understand storage in Dataproc. What is the storage? How a storage will happen? Storage in Dataproc. Okay, so storage in Dataproc. So, so the important rule about Dataproc is do not store anything in the SDFS. Okay. Why? Because if you delete the cluster, your data will delete it, and data is and it is not durable also. So don't do anything in the SDFS. Always, what is the correct approach? So for storage in GCP, always use GCS. Okay. So in GCP, always use two things: GCS for storage, and other thing is Dataproc only for compute. Okay. So for compute use Dataproc, for storage use GCS. So if you'll use this approach, so this is the this is beneficial in case of GCP. Okay. Now we'll understand what is Dataproc job type. Okay. So what are types of job we can do? So Dataproc job type. Dataproc job type. Okay. Dataproc job type. So first we have the Spark jobs. Spark jobs. Other we have PySpark. PySpark. So Spark job is like a Scala. Okay. PySpark job is a Python. Then we have the Spark SQL job. Spark SQL jobs. Okay. Then we have the Hive jobs. Hive jobs. Then we have the Hadoop jobs. Okay. Hadoop jobs. So if we'll understand this practical things related to GCP console, and that is just drop and drop service. You don't have to worry if you'll understand what type of cluster we need to create in which scenario, what virtual machine you need to select. So that is very easy. Okay. So now we'll understand. So these are the types of job you can run in Dataproc. Now we need to understand how we are submitting the PySpark job. So for PySpark job, how we are submitting PySpark job, we have some command. Okay, so this is called GC command. So how we are doing G cloud dataproc. Then what we are passing, we have the jobs. Then we are using the submit command. Submit PySpark. Then what we are doing, GC means like it's like a storage location, bucket location I am giving. So bucket location is where our Python file is there. So bucket location, buck. So we are creating some Python file. We are storing in this GCS location. Okay. So bucket. Then we are passing like a script. We are passing like a script. Then we are passing like a job.py. Okay. So job.py is a Python file I'm creating, storing in this location, and I'm writing command like gcloud dataproc jobs submit PySpark. Okay. So before running this command, you need to enable your GC Cloud Console. Okay. Then we are choosing the then dash cluster equals to what is your name. So your cluster name you need to give. Okay. Then after that, which region you have created the cluster. So region equals to whatever like US Central. So you can give the name. So if you are running this command, you are submitting this command, your job will got submitted. So gcloud dataproc jobs submit PySpark, then the location of your Python file, PySpark file, and then which what is your cluster name and what is the region in which you are creating that your uh, cluster. Okay, so this way you have to do that. Okay. Now we need to understand how Sparks runs on Dataproc. Okay, so how Sparks run on Dataproc. I'll explain pictorial also after this all theoretical things. So one first step is the job submitted. Second things, driver runs on where driver runs on master. Okay. Then what is the third step? Third step is like a executor runs on worker. Executor run on worker. Okay, so worker node. So driver runs on master, executor runs on worker. Then fourth step is like data reads from GCS. Okay, so whatever the data we have, it is reading like Python file we have. So data read from GCS. Then fifth is the processing happen. Then whatever the processing we are writing, processing. Then sixth, whatever sixth we have output written to GCS or BigQuery wherever we are giving the location. So output written to GCS or BigQuery wherever we are writing. Okay. So this way we are running our PySpark. So we are submitting the job. Driver runs on master, executor runs on worker node, and then data reads from GCS, then processing it do based on your file, and then it write to the GCS or BigQuery. It's based on your requirement. Okay, so we understand that. Okay, now we will see what is the data prog pricing. So if you talk about the pricing on data prog, so pricing basically depends on few things like a VM instance, which VM instance you are using. Okay, VM instance, then whatever the disk we are using, like storage related, then the data proc service, service fee. That is very small. Okay, that is a small comparison to all the cluster and all. So that is small. So no charge when cluster is deleted. So if you delete the cluster, so if your cluster deleted, so there is no charge. Okay. Now we will see. So this is the pricing related things. Okay. Now, so if your cluster is running, VM is running, then obviously you need to give the charge. So that's why for what type of job you need to choose which types of virtual machine you need to cluster, which needs to cluster you need to choose. You have to think before that. Okay. So now we will see cost optimization tricks in case of Dataproc. Okay. So what is cost optimization? Cost optimization. What is cost optimization in case of Dataproc? So first thing is use preemptible workers. Okay, use preemptively like secondary. Okay, preemptible workers. Then second thing is create cluster only when needed. Okay, create cluster only when needed. Then third thing is auto delete cluster. Okay, so whenever work is done, you can delete. So auto delete cluster. Fourth is use a smaller machine. Okay, use a smaller machine. So if this way you will do, definitely you will optimize your cost. Okay, now we will see what are the data type, what are the data proc clusters we have. Okay, so data proc cluster type, data proc cluster type. Okay, we will see data proc cluster type. So first is the standard cluster. Okay, that is a standard cluster. So what is a standard cluster? It is always running. Okay, it is always running. So standard cluster is always running and used for long workload. So if we have long workload and continuous running job, you are using that used for long workload. Workload. That is called a standard cluster. Okay. Then we have the single node cluster. So only one node. Okay. That is single node cluster. So what is single node clusters? So one VM only, one virtual machine only. So we have this is only this we are using only for the like we have so we have to do some POC or development. We can use this. Okay, so that it is very cheap. Okay, you don't have to, it is not chargeable much, so it is very cheap compared to other cluster. So that's why we are using single node cluster. Okay, there is only one node, so where workers and driver workers and master both are in the single node only, worker and master. Okay, then third we have the emperor cluster. Okay, third is the emperor, not emperor, ephemeral, ephemeral. Okay, ephem ephemeral cluster. Okay, so what is this? This is only for, this is the best practice. So best practice to use this one. So this is for if you wanted to job to be create and then after that, so this is only created for job. Then when job runs and then cluster deleted. Okay. So suppose you are running some job and doing some processing and you wanted to create the cluster and job run and auto deletion. So on that case you need to use the ephemeral cluster. Okay. So you can use Airflow plus cloud computer in case of that. Okay. So Dataproc, if you're using the cloud cluster, so you are using create cluster. So what are the step you're using? Create cluster in Airflow, create cluster, then we have the run a Spark job, run job, and then third step we have like a delete cluster. Okay, so you can do it with the help of Airflow cluster. Okay, delete cluster you can do. Okay, so this way you can do that. Okay, Now we need to see the security and data procs. So security and data procs, like what is the IAM role you need to give, service account, what is VPC network isolation. So that you need to see, like where you need to give the access, like GCS. So if you are reading the data, you need to create some service accounts. For service account, you need to give the GCS access, BigQuery or PubSub where you are storing the data, right? So data proc is something like here. So this is suppose data proc, okay? So this is data proc. So it is reading data from suppose GCS. So GCS it is reading the data and is storing to BigQuery suppose. So we need to see like we have the read write permission in the BigQuery and GCS read write permission. So we need so whatever service account you'll create, you need to see all this permission and IAM role. So that we need to see whenever we are creating the cluster. Okay. So Dataproc and so Dataproc we have the like it's a compute engine and BigQuery have the analyticals engine. So with Dataproc we are running the Spark Hadoop job. It is code based. BigQuery mostly SQL based. Okay. And then Dataproc mostly used for ETL or processing. We have the high complex job, and the BigQuery mostly used for reporting or analytics. So we can run batch and streaming both in Dataproc, but always so streaming is not recommended in case of Dataproc. You can use data flow for that. Okay, data flow or computer for that. Okay, so when to use Dataproc, like we have question like in which scenario we need to use. So I'll give some scenario like when to use Dataproc. Okay, when to use the Dataproc. So Dataproc we have to use like when we have the complex Spark transformation. We have the complex Spark transformation. We have the complex Spark transformations. Suppose we have the heavy join or aggregations, heavy join and custom logic. If you have the custom logic, so you can use in this case. So this scenario, second scenario, third scenario, if we have the ML processing required, so for that big data processing, we can use that. Okay. Then we have the if we have some legacy workload, legacy Hadoop workload. Okay. So legacy Hadoop workload. So you can use in this scenario also. Okay. So when not to use, so this is the when to use Dataproc. When not to use if you have the simple SQL analytics or real-time dashboard or small dashboards. In this scenario, you don't have to use Dataproc. Okay. So finally, we understand Dataproc is a manage the Spark or Hadoop service on GCS on GCP used for large scale data processing and ETL, and that is integrated with GCS and BigQuery. Okay. So that's why we are using the GCS. That's why using the Dataproc. So we have Dataproc in GCP and EMR in sorry AWS. We have the EMR. Okay, these have both have the same concepts. Okay. So we understand why what is Dataproc, what is why Dataproc needed, what are the framework Dataproc support. So frameworks like Apache Spark, Hadoop, Hive, Pig, HBase, Presto. So what are the main component of Dataproc cluster? So master node that control the cluster, and worker node like run Spark execution. Secondary worker node we have the preemptible. Then we understand what is the architecture. Okay, like what runs on master node, what runs on the worker node. We already understand. Then how does a Spark runs on Dataproc? I have already explained where we are file giving the what is the G Cloud command also jobs and execution. What types of job we are running? How do you submit a PySpark job? We understand these things also, right? Then we have already seen the cost and optimization. So you need to choose the right virtual machines. You need to choose the right disk or a small Dataproc service. So and if there is a Dataproc creation, so for that you need to give the service also, right? And then we understand how do you reduce data proc cost. Use preemptible VM, create ephemeral clusters, then auto delete cluster, use right virtual machine, avoid ideal cluster. So if you don't have processing, don't put the idle cluster. Okay. And yeah, so but then we understand what are the types of clusters we have. Okay, so this we have seen in this video. Okay, so if you have any questions related to data proc or any questions we have any concepts you wanted to understand, please comment. I'll be connecting one to one. Okay, thank you, thanks for watching.